it goes without saying the Ottomans committed a genocide against the Armenians. It's become an assumed truth, at least in Western European discourse. But let me explain to you the Ottoman perspective. The Ottoman perspective was this. Obviously, there were a number of incidents whereby there was nationalist agitations within modern-day Armenia, which was part of the Ottoman state. But the Armenian genocide is usually referred to an incident which took place in 1915, in the first year of war, World War I, where the Ottomans demanded from their Armenian citizens that we need a certain amount of men to fight for the Ottomans as part of our war effort. Keep in mind that Armenia was part of the Ottoman state, and Armenians were Ottoman citizens. And the Ottomans in 1915 demanded by law that we want a certain number of Armenian men to fight for us. The Armenian leaders refused to give any men towards the war effort. In the eyes of the Ottoman state, that was treason. Secondly, there was, according to the Ottoman state at the time, evidence of collusion between the Russian Empire and the Armenians, in that the Russians would supply money and weapons for the Armenians to break away from the Ottoman state. Based on these two things, which was deemed as an act of treason, the Ottomans had expelled and exiled the Armenians and pushed them out towards the deserts of Syria, Deir ez-Zor, in eastern Syria. In that journey, many Armenians did indeed die. They died from malnutrition, from hunger, and I'm sure some were killed unjustly on the way there. We can't deny that. But from the Ottoman perspective, they saw it as an act of treason. And it goes without saying also that whilst in their journey towards that perilous journey towards Deir ez-Zor, the deserts of Syria, that when that opportunity arose, elements of the Ottoman army may have, in fact, did act unjustly. We shouldn't be shy about admitting this. However, was it a systematic genocide? Were the Ottoman state, were they even in a position to carry out a systematic genocide, given that they were in a state of war from all fronts? It should also be noted that whether you accept what happened to the Armenians was an intentional and systemic genocide, or that it was an act of treason which resulted in them being expelled and therefore many Armenians died, however you want to see it, the point is the Khalifa or the Sultan did not make this decision. Because by 1915, the three Pashas were running the Ottoman state. The Sultan had no executive power over these kind of policies. And last but not least, which I touched upon on a previous slide, were the Ottomans the sick man of Europe? No. Was it a state or a polity which seemed to have been behind its European counterparts in many areas? Yes. Yes. There was a war, I believe it was 1857, I could be wrong, the Crimean War. Britain and France allied with the Ottomans to fight the Russians. Britain and France used to use the Ottomans to counter Russian geopolitics. It's quite very normal. And the Crimean War was the first time that the Ottomans fell into debt, interest-based debt, with Britain and France. And this debt continued to increase, and it crippled the Ottoman state until the time of Abdullah Hamid, rahimahullah, who tried his utmost best with radical fiscal policies to eradicate this debt. But was it a sick man of Europe? No, because as we all know, if you take the analogy of a sick man, you can pretty much kill off a sick man. It doesn't take 100 or 150 years to kill off a sick man. But was it an ailing empire? Was it an empire or a state that did have problems? That was not as militarily, economically, and politically astute and capable as its counterparts? There is truth to this. But the very fact that in World War I, even with weaponry that was less advanced to Britain, France, and Russia, the Ottomans still put up a fight and were successful in a number of key battles. If they were the sick men of Europe, they would have been defeated very easily. They weren't. In fact, it was the Arab revolt. It was a revolt. It was an internal strife that essentially delivered the final blow to the Ottomans. It wasn't an actual battle or war. It was the rebellion from the Arabian Peninsula. So brothers and sisters, those are the negatives. Some of this stuff is factual. Some of this stuff is Islamically indefensible. You cannot defend it. And some of this stuff is just propaganda. And we need to be smart enough when understanding Islamic history to have an objective approach. That yes, we accept that not everything within Islamic history and civilization was hunky-dory. Of course it wasn't. But at the same time, it wasn't all bad. Wallahi, it wasn't all bad. And has to be said, bro. It has to be said. These little disclaimers and things have to be said. And the reason why it has to be said is because there's this mindset that, you know what, we're always talking about the Islamic great days. It's because a lot of the stuff was great. A lot of the stuff was great. Again, forget what Dilly Hussain is telling you. Forget about what any Muslim was doing. There's European thinkers. You know, the vast majority, at least some of the very well-known Enlightenment thinkers, they spoke about it. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, amongst others, spoke about Islamic civilization as being the kind of precursor, the intellectual precursor to their awakening. So we shouldn't be shy about talking about Islamic civilization in a positive manner, in a manner in which we, inshallah, want to see the return and replication of. But all I'm saying is, just pipe it down a little, because a lot of it wasn't all perfect. Because some of the things that I experienced is that it was all good and no bad. And that's not true, because what will end up happening if you have this approach to Islamic history, you're going to have someone who's just done a simple Google or Wiki check, that's going to put their hands up and present to you some things from Islamic history, and you're going to be stuck. We have to appreciate and accept that there were many issues within Islamic civilization. In our history there was. And how are we going to learn, how are we going to move forward as an ummah if we don't learn from the mistakes? If we don't acknowledge these mistakes, if we don't replicate these mistakes? Just be smart and vigilant and be objective in not falling into extremes. To conclude, why are the Ottomans so important to Muslims? It was the last central Islamic authority. You know, when we read the seerah, and we read about the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Khulafa al-Rashidin, the Umayyads, the Salaf al-Salihin, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Sayyid Qutuz, Tariq bin Ziyad, and all these, you know, these great leaders and armies and empires and polities. I'll be honest with you, sometimes, okay, maybe the seerah and the companions are different because there's a different kind of affinity. Beyond that, there is a disconnect. There is a disconnect in terms of time. There's a disconnect in terms of space. There's a disconnect because you can't really link back to the Abbasids and the Umayyads and these previous classical polities. But with the Ottomans you can, because they existed just 95 years ago. They are still great-grandchildren of Sultan Abdul Hamid that exist today. They exist. You can, those of you who are from North Africa and from the Arabian Peninsula, your forefathers, or maybe your families right now, are living the outcome of the destruction of the Ottoman state. There's a very interesting article in The Economist. I forgot who wrote it, I forgot the title. Just Google Ottoman Empire Economist. But they said that the author questioned that would we really be seeing the destabilization and the carnage and the unrest that we're seeing in Middle East and North Africa had Sykes-Picot not happened? Where lines were drew over a bottle of shandy, a glass and a ruler and a pencil and literally drawing lines in regions and countries where people and different races had lived for centuries. Melting pots. Melting pots. Let's just draw lines. France, this is yours, this is mine. Yeah? That's literally what it is. And it wasn't just exclusive to the Middle East, North Africa. All of Africa is full of straight lines. Whenever you see a straight line, alarm bells should be ringing. That's not normal. Yeah? So, we are living, for those of you who follow events in Middle East and North Africa, we are living the aftermath of what happened after the destruction of the Ottoman Khilafah. They were the last Islamic authority. I know there's a whole debate around, after the Khulafa al-Rashidin, was any other entity or dynasty that came, were they really a Khulafa, were they kings? Yes, there's a hadith in Musnad Ahmad which describes that after Khulafa al-Rashidin there'll be kingship. There'll be kingship and there'll be tyranny, etc., etc. And that true Khilafah only lasted for 30 years. Yes, these arguments exist. Some of them have legitimacy and truth in them. But the point is that ulama for 14th century, 13th centuries accepted these dynasties as Khulafa. And for all their faults and all their mistakes, they were the last embodiment. They were the last embodiment of any Islamic authority or polity which transcended borders and races as we understand it today. And they are the most closest to us in time. And in the UK, they are the most closest to us in terms of distance. And the reason why many revivalist organizations and movements and groups speak very fondly about the Ottomans, dare I say even romanticizing Ottoman history, is because they do it because they see within the Ottomans a hope and source of revival. For those of you who are big supporters of Erdogan, for those of you who follow Turkish politics very closely, it is not uncommon to see that in pro-AKP rallies and just generally rallies of that kind of spectrum, you'll see that flag there. That green flag with the three crescents was the flag of the Uthmani Khilafat. And those three crescents represented Asia, Africa and Europe. This green flag is now re-emerging in Turkey and other parts of the Muslim world. So this is why discussing the Ottomans, not just the Ottomans, generally Islamic history, is important for us. Because how do we move forward as an ummah if we do not reflect upon our past, if we do not reflect upon our history, take from the good, learn from the bad, and try our best to never repeat the ugly. Jazakumullah khairan for your patience.